These videos are strictly only for entertainment and educational purposes. I do not encourage or endorse to any of the behaviors of the people I am talking about in my videos. Natasha Ann Ryan was born in 1984 and grew up in Rockhampton, Queensland, a small city of 68,000. Rocky, as the locals affectionately called it, was a friendly place where the residents knowing each other's business was a way of life. When Natasha was a child, her father gave her the affectionate nickname Grasshopper because she walked instead of crawled. But by her teens, Natasha lived with her mother in North Rockhampton. Her parents had divorced, and her father had remarried and moved to another Queensland city over 3 hours away. A troubled teen, Natasha began experimenting with drugs, attempted suicide, and developed a fondness for running away, all by the age of 14. She was also seeing a 21-year-old man, Scott Black. On one occasion in July of 1998, Natasha ran away while out walking the family dog. Police found her later that week at an outdoor music venue in Rockhampton, and soon discovered she'd been staying in a hotel with Scott. Police initially charged the much older man with abduction, a charge that was eventually dropped, though Scott was later fined for obstructing the police's investigation. But it wouldn't be the last time Natasha Ryan ran away from home. On the morning of August 31st, 1998, Natasha Ryan's mother dropped her off at North Rockhampton State High. At some point that day, Natasha vanished. It would be another 5 years before she was seen again. Knowing Natasha had a history of running away, the police believed they would find her again soon enough. But as the months passed, hope that Ryan would be found alive started to fade when 3 women between the ages of 19 and 39, as well as a 9-year-old girl, went missing. Eventually, they were all confirmed to be the victims of a serial killer, Leonard Fraser. Described as a sexual predator of the worst kind, and by police psychologists as a classical psychopath, Leonard Fraser was a convicted rapist who, upon his 1997 release from prison, had continued to rape more women. On April 22, 1999, Fraser raped and murdered 9-year-old Kara Steinhardt after stalking her on her walk home from school. This crime landed him, once again, in prison. And though police were convinced all of the local disappearances were connected, Fraser initially denied that he'd murdered Natasha Ryan. Investigators soon persuaded another inmate to elicit a confession out of Fraser, and eventually, he admitted to murdering all 5 victims, including Natasha. He claimed he had met her at a movie theater, and, after offering her a ride home, attacked her in his car and hid her body in a pond. Believing Natasha was one of Fraser's victims, her family held a memorial service for her in 2001 on her 17th birthday. But although Fraser was able to show police where he'd hidden the remains of the other victims, Natasha's body was never found. While her family frantically searched for her, Natasha Ryan was alive and well, hiding out with her boyfriend Scott Black in different local houses, the last one only a few minutes away from her mother's home in North Rockhampton. Scott worked as a milkman at a dairy factory, and his colleagues had no clue he was sheltering Natasha. By all accounts, he appeared to live alone. Only his own laundry ever appeared on the clothing line outside, and whenever Scott received visitors, Natasha simply hid in a bedroom cupboard until they were gone. Most of the time, though, Natasha moved about the house freely with the curtains drawn. She seemed content to live out most of her teenage years in a darkened home, cooking, reading, sewing, and surfing the web. In almost 5 years, Natasha only went outside a handful of times to move houses or to go to a local beach at night. But by 2003, it seems the fate of the man accused of her murder may have been weighing on Natasha's mind. About 3 weeks before Fraser's trial, it's believed Natasha contacted the helpline of a children's counseling service. Using the name Sally, Natasha told a counselor that she was a runaway, that she was living with her boyfriend, and that a man was about to go on trial for her murder. On April 2, 2003, the counselor anonymously relayed her message to the police, but the officer on duty was unable to trace the call. Shortly afterward, the Rockhampton police received an anonymous letter with an enclosed phone number claiming Natasha was alive and well. On the evening of April 10, 2003, police officers forced entry into a house on Mills Avenue in North Rockhampton. There, they found Natasha Ryan hiding in the bedroom cupboard, ghostly pale from her years hiding indoors without any exposure to sunlight. According to CBS News, it was the 12th day of Fraser's trail when a prosecutor received a phone call from the police that Natasha Ryan was alive. The prosecutor rushed through the courtroom to find Natasha's father, Robert Ryan, and tell him the news that his daughter had been found. When Robert heard this, he initially assumed it meant that the police had found her body, and he almost collapsed when he heard that Natasha was, in fact, alive. Robert was instructed to call the police station to confirm it was his daughter, and when he did, he asked the woman who came on the line for the nickname he'd given her as a child to ensure he wasn't dealing with an imposter. "Dad, it's me, Grasshopper, and I love you and I'm sorry," Natasha told him. Natasha's reunion with her mother, Jenny Ryan, was less pleasant. Jenny was furious. Natasha had led her to believe that she was dead for all these years, all while living less than a mile away. "I hated her," she told CBS. "I could have grabbed her and just shook the hell out of her. But when I see her, you forget all that." Then, Natasha Ryan appeared in court at her own murder trial, and to the public it seemed as if the now 18-year-old had come back from the dead. She testified that she had not in fact been murdered by Fraser. The court naturally deemed that Fraser was not guilty of murdering Natasha Ryan. Still, he was found guilty of committing the other murders he'd been charged with and was sentenced to life in prison. Meanwhile, Natasha Ryan was facing trials of her own. While the world rejoiced that Natasha Ryan was alive, many responded to her sudden reappearance with outrage, wondering how she could have put her loved ones through years of suffering by allowing them to believe she'd been murdered. In 2005, The Guardian reported that Natasha's boyfriend Scott had received a 1-year prison sentence for perjury after falsely claiming to police that he didn't know where Natasha Ryan was. And in 2006, Natasha herself was found guilty of creating a false police investigation. She was fined $4,000 and ordered to pay $16,000 towards investigation costs. But Natasha Ryan was profiting off of the publicity. Signed to a publicist, she made up for years of lost income by selling her story to the Australian version of 60 Minutes for $120,000 Australian dollars. Natasha and Scott married in 2008 and sold the news of their marriage to Women's Day for an additional $200,000. They currently have 3 children. After Natasha Ryan was discovered, the New Zealand Herald reports, police asked her why she had stayed in hiding all of those years. Why didn't she leave when people began to believe she'd been murdered? She answered with, "The lie had become too big." Thank you for watching this video. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and also subscribe for more. See you next time. Bye.